live Monday music motivation. Let me just grab my template here that we're going to be filling out as we do every week here on the Monday Music Motivation. This one, I'm going to be talking about sort of a fun little story that I think is pretty inspirational and pretty interesting for sure. Sometimes it's fun to get into a little bit of the history of the clarinet, the sort of stories of past players and things like that that are really interesting. So what I'm talking about today is this perception that the professionals just sort of make everything easy. They're just on this whole different level and they just operate differently than we do as mortal players. But I think that's not quite the case. I think we often sort of overlook the amount of work and effort that the professionals are putting in. And yes, they do operate on a little bit of a different level, but it's only because they've spent more time, done more work. I have a video that I really like a lot that I did a few years ago now about how talent doesn't exist and how as performers, when we hear like, oh, you're so talented, that's like so crazy that you can do that. At least for me personally, sometimes it's a little bit annoying because it's like, yeah, sure, I am good at what I do, but it really doesn't have that much to do with talent. It has to do with the fact that I'm working really hard and practicing regularly and all that stuff. So the story that I want to talk about today to sort of give you a little inspiration, a little behind the scenes look at how much the professionals actually work and how much work they're putting into it is the story of the premiere of the Copland Clarinet Concerto. So if you don't know, first of all, the Copland Clarinet Concerto, fantastic piece. Everybody should know that and listen to it. The piece itself was commissioned by Benny Goodman. If you don't know Benny Goodman, you should know him and look him up. And great clarinet playing, really famous and known as a jazz clarinetist, probably one of the most popular and maybe most household names of a clarinetist of the last century, for sure. So Benny Goodman commissioned Aaron Copland to write the concerto. He didn't give him too many parameters. It was sort of just go for it, write a piece. Benny Goodman actually commissioned several pieces from sort of the most popular composers at the time. A much less known piece is the Ebony Concerto that he commissioned from Stravinsky, sort of around the same time as well. So for the commission with Copland, he commissioned him in 1947 or towards the end of 47. Copland finished the piece in 48. And Benny Goodman had a 2-year sort of exclusive deal, which is very common when you're commissioning pieces. I'm part of a consortium that's commissioning a piece right now. It's the same thing. Everybody who contributed to commissioning it gets a 1-year exclusive performance deal with it. And Copland gave Benny Goodman actually asked for it from Copland to have 2 years of exclusivity for the Copland Clarinet Concerto. So it was finished in 48. But it wasn't premiered until the beginning of November of 1950. So it was the full 2 years. And apparently Benny Goodman kept sort of putting off the premiere of it. And the sort of assumption and the story goes that it was really stinking hard and he needed a lot of time to practice it, which I think is valid. We have maybe some evidence of that too, because Benny Goodman sort of made some changes to the score and the clarinet part. There's just a little bit in the cadenza and a little bit towards the end where some of the high notes are rearranged a little bit, so it's not so crazy high all the time. There is a recording of Charles Neidig playing the original version of it, which I think in some places is better. I personally like the sort of standard ending a little bit more, but it's interesting to see those changes. So Benny Goodman was trying to learn this really hard piece, really struggling with it. And Benny Goodman was also known as a little bit of a perfectionist. So he was like really trying to get it nice for the premiere. But it took so long that Copland actually sort of arranged a performance of it with Ralph McLean, who's also a fantastic clarinetist of the last century, one of the absolute greats. And this was for the end of November 1950. So that was the story goes that Copland was kind of trying to pressure Benny Goodman to be able to be the one who premiered it and played the piece first, because McLean was playing it on November 28th of 1950 with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And it's just this great example of, we think like Benny Goodman, such a great player, Copland Clarinet Concerto, such a great piece. And we hear, especially, you can listen to Benny Goodman's recording of it. Fantastic recording, sounds so good. But to know that he was struggling for 2 years working on it, trying to get it going, working on a premiere. And he did get the first premiere on the NBC radio broadcast with the NBC Symphony Orchestra and Fritz Reiner conducting on November 6th of 1950. And then Ralph McLean played it with the Philadelphia Orchestra under Eugene Ormandy in November 28th, 1950. So just a few weeks later. So he was really sort of working up to the deadline there to actually be the premiere. But I think the moral of that story, again, is that even these great players take time to learn things. And when you listen to Benny Goodman's recording of the Copland Clarinet Concerto, it's, again, so good. And we think that he's just playing, putting it out there, and it's just easy, magical. Oh my gosh, I could never play that well. But again, Benny Goodman was working like crazy for 2 years, almost didn't get to be the official premiere of the piece because he had to work at it to get it up to the level that he wanted. So if the pros have to take time to do things, then we all can be a little bit patient with ourselves and accept that it's going to take us some time to get where we want to go and reach that level that we want to be playing at. And the only way to reach that level and be able to do your premiere of the Copland Concerto, whatever that is in your own playing, whether it's joining a community band, learning a solo, making an audition, whatever it is, it all comes down to consistent action. And that's what the template's all about. So we've done this template before. If you've been on the Monday Music Motivation before, what this is exactly what it looks like. It's just our game plan for the week, our sort of organization and motivation to do the work. We have the date for the week, the reflection of how things are going, the goal for what we want to accomplish this week, and then our plan. You can see mine from last week. I haven't filled out mine yet this week, but I'm going to do that right now, right when we get done with this, and I encourage you to do the same. Again, you don't have to follow this exact template. If you want to follow this exact template, you can download a PDF of it at quickstartclarinet.com/get-started in my free members area. But do whatever you need to do to get organized, make your plan, set your intentions for the week, and then put it in your calendar, set the reminders, do whatever you need to actually make it happen, because it's when we take that consistent action, that's when we actually get the results that we want and get the results that we're aiming for. So I hope that this has been a little bit inspirational, hopefully motivational for you to be like Benny Goodman. Maybe don't procrastinate quite so long, although he wasn't really procrastinating. He was just working really hard, trying to learn the piece. So get in there, do the work, and reach towards whatever goal you're aiming toward, whatever direction you're headed in. So thanks for watching. I will see you next week for the next live Monday Music Motivation. Fill out your template, get your plan organized, and have a great week of practicing. Bye.